The year is 1900. In northern China, thousands of peasants march toward Beijing, convinced they possess supernatural powers. They believe they can stop bullets with their bare hands and defeat foreign armies through ancient magic. This is the beginning of the Boxer Rebellion. To understand this explosive moment, we must go back decades. After the Opium Wars, foreign powers forced China into unequal treaties. Western nations and Japan established spheres of influence, controlling trade and territory while missionaries spread Christianity across the countryside. The Boxers emerged from this humiliation. Officially called the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists, they practiced martial arts and believed in spirit possession. Their rituals promised invulnerability to weapons and supernatural strength against foreign devils. Their beliefs were a mix of folk religion, martial arts tradition, and anti-foreign sentiment. Boxers claimed gods possessed them during rituals, making them immune to bullets. They blamed China's problems on foreign influence and Christian converts. Initially, the Qing Dynasty under Empress Dowager Cixi opposed the Boxers as rebels. But as their movement grew, the court faced a dilemma. Some officials saw them as useful patriots who could help expel foreigners without official involvement. By early 1900, the Boxers had killed hundreds of Chinese Christians and foreign missionaries. Foreign powers demanded action, but the Qing response was hesitant. The court was divided between modernizers who feared foreign retaliation and conservatives who supported the Boxers. In June 1900, everything changed. The Boxers entered Beijing with thousands of followers. Empress Dowager Cixi, facing pressure and perhaps seeing opportunity, decided to support them. The Qing government declared war on foreign powers. The Boxers and imperial troops laid siege to the Beijing Legation Quarter. Nearly 900 foreigners and 3,000 Chinese Christians were trapped inside. The rebels believed their magic would make foreign weapons useless against them. Inside the legations, defenders organized desperate defenses. Diplomats, soldiers, missionaries, and civilians prepared for what they believed would be their last stand. They had limited weapons, but modern rifles and a few machine guns. The first major assault came on June 20th. Boxers charged the barricades, convinced their rituals made them bulletproof. What happened next would become legendary and tragic. As Boxers advanced, shouting invocations and waving swords, defenders opened fire. The Maxim guns, capable of firing 600 rounds per minute, cut through the charging masses. The magic had failed spectacularly. Witness accounts describe the horror. One defender wrote, "They came on in masses, believing themselves invulnerable. The machine guns mowed them down like wheat." The Boxers kept coming, convinced the failure was due to insufficient faith. The siege continued for 55 days. Boxers tried different tactics: night attacks, tunneling, fire, arrows. But each time, modern weapons proved decisive. The defenders' discipline and technology overcame numerical superiority. Meanwhile, an international coalition was forming. 8 nations, including Britain, France, Germany, Japan, and the United States, organized the China Relief Expedition. Their mission: break the siege and punish the Boxers. The coalition forces faced Boxer resistance as they advanced toward Beijing. At the Battle of Tianjin, modern artillery demolished city walls that had stood for centuries. Traditional Chinese defenses were no match for industrialized warfare. On August 14, 1900, coalition forces reached Beijing. They broke through the city gates with artillery and stormed the walls. The siege of the legations was finally lifted after nearly 2 months of fighting. What followed was brutal retaliation. Foreign troops looted the Forbidden City and other imperial sites. Indiscriminate killings targeted Boxers and civilians alike. The occupation became a symbol of national humiliation. The Boxer Protocol, signed in 1901, imposed harsh terms on China: massive reparations, foreign troops stationed in Beijing, and execution of officials who supported the Boxers. China's sovereignty was further eroded. The human cost was staggering. Estimates suggest 100,000 Boxers and civilians died, along with thousands of foreigners and Chinese Christians. Entire regions were devastated by the fighting and subsequent reprisals. For the Boxers themselves, the failure was complete. Their magic had not stopped bullets. Their gods had not granted victory. Survivors faced execution or fled into hiding, their movement crushed by reality. The Qing Dynasty's gamble had backfired catastrophically. Supporting the Boxers led to foreign occupation and harsher terms than before. The court's authority was irreparably damaged, accelerating its eventual collapse. Foreign powers learned different lessons. Some saw it as proof of Western superiority, fueling colonial attitudes. Others recognized Chinese nationalism as a force that couldn't be ignored forever. The rebellion exposed China's technological gap in stark terms. While Japan had modernized successfully after similar foreign pressure, China's attempts at reform had been half-hearted. The cost of falling behind was now clear. But the Boxer Rebellion wasn't just about technology versus tradition. It reflected deeper tensions between rural and urban, between different visions of China's future, between preservation and modernization. The movement also revealed the power of grassroots nationalism. However misguided their methods, the Boxers expressed genuine popular anger against foreign domination. This sentiment would shape China's revolutionary future. In Chinese memory, the Boxers remain controversial. Were they patriotic heroes resisting imperialism or superstitious fanatics who brought disaster? The debate continues to this day. The foreign perspective has also evolved. While contemporary accounts often portrayed Boxers as barbarians, modern historians recognize the complex causes behind the rebellion. Imperialism and cultural conflict created the conditions for violence. The technological lesson was unambiguous. Magic couldn't defeat machine guns. Spirit possession couldn't stop artillery. In the industrial age, military power depended on factories, training, and science, not rituals. Yet the Boxers' failure didn't end belief in supernatural protection in warfare. Similar ideas would appear in other anti-colonial movements. The human desire for magical solutions to impossible odds persists. For China, the rebellion accelerated change. Reformers pointed to the disaster as proof that modernization was essential. The last decade of Qing rule saw desperate attempts at reform, but it was too late. The Boxer Rebellion also influenced international relations. It contributed to the open-door policy that sought to prevent any single power from dominating China. This framework would shape East Asian politics for decades. Today, we can see the rebellion as a collision point between worlds. Ancient China met the modern industrial age. Mysticism met materialism. Local tradition met global imperialism. The impact reverberated through the 20th century. The sites of the rebellion still hold memory. In Beijing, plaques mark where the siege occurred. Museums preserve artifacts from both sides. The physical scars have healed, but the historical wounds remain. What if the Boxers had succeeded? It's a fascinating counterfactual. Would China have expelled foreigners and remained isolated, or would the technological gap have forced engagement anyway? History took a different path. The rebellion's legacy includes important questions about cultural confidence. When a civilization faces superior technology, how does it respond? With rejection, adaptation, synthesis? China would grapple with this for generations. For the individual Boxer, the experience was profoundly disorienting. To believe absolutely in magical protection, then see comrades fall to bullets. This psychological trauma is often overlooked in historical accounts. The foreign defenders also faced psychological challenges. Trapped for weeks, expecting death daily, witnessing what they saw as fanatical attacks. Their diaries reveal both courage and cultural incomprehension. Military historians study the siege as a classic example of defense against overwhelming odds. The legation quarter's layout, resource management, and leadership decisions are still examined in war colleges today. The rebellion affected ordinary Chinese most of all. Farmers caught between Boxers and imperial troops, between foreign soldiers and their own government. Their suffering often goes unrecorded in grand historical narratives. In literature and art, the Boxer Rebellion has inspired countless works. From Chinese novels examining national trauma to Western adventure stories, it represents a dramatic moment when worlds collided. As we look back 120 years later, the Boxer Rebellion teaches us about the limits of tradition in changing times. It shows how desperation can breed magical thinking, and it reminds us that technological gaps have human costs. The Boxers failed, but their rebellion marked a turning point. China's journey from empire to republic, from weakness to strength, would be long and painful. But the collision of magic and machine guns in 1900 was a moment when history's direction became clear.